Today was an important day in that a lot of former senior intelligence officials gathered to honor the passing of the former Navy Secretary Paul Ignatius. There was a funeral ceremony for him today, and that included attendees like former CIA Director Bill Burns. But more to the point here, the president has now selected the person to lead both the NSA and Cyber Command. Of course, we know that NSA is gathering signals intelligence. Cyber Command is all about offensive operations. And that person is General Joshua Rudd. He is currently the deputy commander of the Indo-Pacific Command. He was the commander of U.S. Special Operations Command Pacific, according to LinkedIn. Oh, I'm also sitting on a bed and now I have a leg cramp, so I'm just going to move around awkwardly for you. And, who is Rudd? Let's hear more about him. A former senior official who has worked with Rudd tells me, quote, he's a professional special operator, an outstanding Army senior leader who understands intelligence. The person went on to say, NSA needs leadership first and foremost, strong leadership. Now, as I had previously reported some months ago, the former director of the NSA and Cyber Command, because this is a dual-hatted position, but for some reason, we'd like to talk more about NSA. He was unceremoniously fired while he was at work overseas. I'm told that he was in Japan. He had just submitted cyber offense plans against China, which were very well received by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Nonetheless, he was removed from his job, and that was a real shock to him. So one of the sources that I spoke with for this report right now says of Rudd, I'm not hearing anything blatantly negative. I think there's a sense of relief that there may be a new director coming in finally after all this time. But this person also went on to say that there is some concern inside the NSA, especially about Rudd not having that signals background, the cyber background, or expertise. Now, compare that to the two previous directors, not just Haugh, but also General Paul Nakasone. They both did have that cyber background. Glenn Gerstel, the former NSA general counsel who does not know Rudd, he tells me, quote, these are operational jobs. You're the head of an operating unit. Another good example would be the head of special operations. You really need to know that it's simply not just the policy and strategy and leadership, it's actually knowing the technical details. But Gerstel also says that this lack of cyber background could be offset by the fact that Rudd has been an avid consumer of intelligence, that he understands the end side, the other side of the product where it is consumed, what NSA and Cyber Command need to do to fulfill the mission in terms of a consumer standpoint. I've also heard from people that they hope that this deputy position at NSA, which has yet to be made public, unclear if Trump has actually selected anybody yet for it, but there's a hope that at that level, there will be someone who has that cyber background. And on the NSA deputy side, I'm told that the rumor is former NSA deputy Tim Kusiba. The catch here is that he has already made it into the tweets of Laura Loomer, who says, quote, public records and screenshots I took from Kusiba's own LinkedIn page, screenshots below, she says, reveal Kusiba has expressed positive views towards several figures associated with the Biden administration's intelligence, quote unquote, leadership. So does Loomer's message, as we've seen in the past, including with Haugh himself and her denigration of him as a leader, mean that Kusiba won't get that job? A guy who comes from the NSA, cares very deeply about people at the NSA, and who I can tell you has strived to try to appear apolitical in what we all have to call pretty political times. On the Cyber Command side, the rumor is a woman named Lorna Maylaw. Right now, she leads the Cyber National Mission Force. That's essentially the operational force of Cyber Command. For her to be the deputy on Cyber Command's side. She is Jamaican born, Brooklyn raised, so she has that background. Back to Rudd, though. One thing that is clear from his Indo-Pacom background is that he has target experience. China remains a top threat of this national security agency, and this administration understands the threat of China, even if it's not necessarily reflected as a top priority in the national security strategy. I'm also told that NSAers have been doing their job, but this is the thing about having a new director come in. They haven't been able to have someone who's making the long-term decisions, things on structure and creating new positions, some of those longer-term strategies, even though they're taking directions from higher ups in the intelligence community and with the Pentagon, of course, with Hegseth himself. There has also been a lot of loss that we've seen since January 20th, not just firings, but people resigning. Morale is low. And so I'm told that one of the major roles and tasks for this new director will be to raise morale. I'm also going to attach the rest of my conversation with veteran Bryan Stern, who described his operation to extract the Venezuelan opposition leader from the country. So stand by on that, you guys. And thanks for sticking around today. Okay, so this is part two with Bryan Stern, the U.S. veteran who has worked with Navy SEALs, earned a Purple Heart, and also founded Grable Rescue. We are in the midst of talking about this operation to exfiltrate Maria Corina Machado from Venezuela. So, Bryan, where we left off, it's choppy waters, it's cold. You've just told some military officers to not bomb you. What's your emotional state as you're waiting for her?
We're okay. With these things, it's important. The stress is real, and the stress is real, but at the same time, you can't focus on that. We got 100 things going on. So there's you know the maritime domain is the most dangerous place that we work. So we're in the middle, we're off the coast of a threat country that may be chasing us, and we don't know yet. We may have a compromised op, and we don't know yet. The U.S. military is dropping things from the sky, so hopefully they don't do that. Um,
And what makes you think that the operation could be compromised?
we always assume that. That's normal. I'm a career counterintelligence officer, and that's where we spend all of our time. We always worry about if a source is under opposition control, and we treat most people as if they are. Frankly, we don't trust a lot of people. We very often are misleading or outright deceptive, uh, but with things that need to happen. And that's really the art. Is it's easy to lie to somebody, it's easy to not say something to somebody, but you also need people to perform and be obedient. So, getting people to do things they're not predisposed to do for a reason, not the reason. So we
Mhm.
hide the reason very often. So lots of people worked on this thing who do not know that they worked on it. That said, you never know. You never
Yeah.
know. People talk, people connect dots. I mean, things happen. So the intelligence services of Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, the cartels are all very sophisticated. I would argue more sophisticated than us, significantly more resilient, significantly more effective. So the deal is that you don't know if you're compromised until the guys with machine guns show up. There's no way to
So,
know.
all
So,
right. So
yeah.
now, so now, I mean, you're saying that Venezuelan intel is more effective than CIA, maybe FBI. Can you just break that down for me? Why do you say that?
I say that not I number one, I don't say that happily. I say that frustrated. They should not be. They should
Mhm.
not be, but they are. But they are. We know they are.
How
It's
how
almost
how do we know that? Because I haven't been hearing that.
the Cuban intelligence service has penetrated most of the U.S. government for the last 70, 80 years. They're way more effective than, let's say, the Russians by comparison. If you're in a bar in Miami and a guy pulls up to you and says, "My name is Vladimir. I'm from the Russian embassy here at Russian consulate in Miami,"
Right.
people kind of go shields up. If somebody
Yeah.
pulls up and says, "My name is Jorge Ramirez and I'm Cuban," you go, "That's cool."
Yeah, but I mean, the CIA has also penetrated the Russians, the Iranians, the Cubans, right? I mean,
Sure.
what's the
I would argue not to the at this point in time, I would argue nowhere near what needs to be.
hmm,
Um, I would, we've been um, for 20 years we've been worried about terrorists and the the resources of the IC were demonstrably dedicated to CT targets, which is fine. That was the right thing at the right time. The problem is that it takes time to pivot, and we're in one of those pivot moments right now, but we're not there yet. We're not there
hmm,
yet. Conversely, the Cubans have been squarely focused on us for forever, undistracted, without a competing priority. They don't need to pivot at all. They've been doing business as usual for a very long time. So, and they're incredibly effective. They're also incredibly kinetic. And our friends in the FBI will tell you all about it. The Cubans are incredibly kinetic. The Venezuelans are too. Here in America, now Tren de Aragua is an in vogue thing. Tren's been around for a long time, long
hmm.
time. And if you look at the TTPs that Tren uses, they are directly identical to that of Hezbollah. And people say, well, how could that be? Well, because the Attorney General of Venezuela is a guy named Tariq al-Assami. Does he sound Latino to you?
Hmm.
Right? The vice president was Tariq al-Saab, Beirut, Lebanon. The largest concentration of Hezbollah operatives outside of Lebanon is in Maracaibo, Venezuela. The
Huh.
number one passport found at the southern border was Venezuelan. And
Hmm.
there's a disproportionate number of passports found at the southern border, with a disproportionate number of Venezuelan passports found at the southern border of people who don't speak Spanish. So why, oh, why would non-Spanish speaking Venezuelan passport holders be coming to America?
Yeah, you're raising a lot of very compelling points here.
Okay.
Uh,
So when we talk about this operation, it's not just, oh, we're extracting a Venezuelan opposition leader and we have to worry about Maduro. These are large scale, great power competition, pure threat problems.
yeah, but when you talk about kinetic, well, what are you talking about specifically? I mean, what kinds of weapon systems are the Cubans throwing around or
And,
Hezbollah?
and the Russians. So Venezuela has Russian radars, Russian surface to air missiles. They have a lot of American stuff. The Venezuelan Air Force has F-16 fighter planes made by Northrop Grumman. So, or I think it was Northrop Grumman. So, and again, this speaks to what we're dealing with when we fought in the CT fight, wherever
Mhm.
it was. The intelligence community and the special operations community largely fought sophisticated. I'm not minimizing the sophistication of the bad guys, but from a capability perspective, the Taliban did not have night vision. The Taliban did not have fighter planes. The Taliban didn't have surface to air missiles. The Taliban didn't have radar. The Taliban didn't have a navy. The Taliban didn't have an air force for that matter. So 20 years fighting folks who don't have socks, who are illiterate, who think that a toilet is advanced technology, compared to, and by the way, we lost that war, I might add. Last time I checked, the Taliban are still in charge. So that didn't work out too well. A tough spot as an Afghan vet for me, right? I don't like saying that out loud, but it's not up to me. That's a fact of life. We spent 20 years dealing with that. The enemies of today really know what plumbing is. They really have socks. They really can read. They are highly educated, highly sophisticated, highly enabled, extremely well resourced.
Yeah, I
And
mean, and we can talk about ISIS and how they've turned to AI to have anchors who try to recruit people on social media. I mean, the game
sure,
is very, very different
I,
today.
I, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, show me a Navy SEAL or a JSOC guy or a Green Beret who's taken hypersonic missile fire.
Hmm.
who have received enemy close air support. Received it. We don't have any because the Taliban and the bad guys in Iraq and Promised Day Brigade and ISIS and all those guys didn't have any of that stuff. So we've always owned the domains.
Hmm.
It's just not true anymore. It's just not true. So when we talk about this operation and through the lens of doing clandestine operations and sensitive activities, the threat here is far different than what most have experience dealing with. Of course, we've done ops against all kinds of people, Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia, and all kinds of stuff. Not to say that we haven't, but it's through the global war on terrorism. If you were a Russia guy, you were a second fiddle. You were a second fiddle versus a counterterrorism guy, right? Terrorism is the CT fight
Yeah.
is where all the money went, right?
Yeah.
So the budget, right, and the drone program and dropping Hellfires, and we're not dropping Hellfire missiles from a Reaper in China. We're not doing that. We're just
No,
not,
that would
not
be quite the story.
that,
It
right?
would be a pretty crazy day for journalists if that happened,
Right.
and
So
for the Pentagon. But
So
yeah,
we talk
so
about Venezuela. When we talk about Venezuela, this is why it's so interesting, is because China has a huge presence in Venezuela. The Russian military has a huge presence in Venezuela. Russian intelligence has I think it's their largest base outside of, certainly in the region, but I think it's also the largest base, maybe one of the largest bases in the world. Venezuela's coastal defense is top shelf Russian technology. It's a mistake to think that Venezuela is an unsophisticated, poor country. It's not.
hmm,
It's a very
okay,
wealthy. It's a very wealthy country
yeah,
and mismanaged as a criminal syndicate, sure. But to suggest that they're poor is just not accurate. That's
okay.
patently false. So the Russian, Venezuela buys top shelf military technology from the
Hmm.
Russians and pays for it with oil and gold.
So let's go back to this moment now in the
If-
operation, considering the threats that you have just laid
Yeah,
out and how they are more sophisticated than they have been in years past, and that some people don't necessarily accentuate the fact that there are these serious concerns in Venezuela. What is Machado's emotional state when she actually finally goes from her boat to your boat after
yeah,
this delay in this very tense moment?
yeah. So through this moment, these are all the things that I'm worried about, right? The sea part, and then, oh yeah, by the way, we're in pitch black off the coast of Venezuela, in the middle of all this um, possibility and potential problems.
Hmm.
Uh, in 10-foot seas in the middle of the night, and the boat's bouncing up and down. So now
Yeah.
we were able to course correct and go to rally point 3, which was fine. Boat 1 gets to rally point 3, we get to rally point 3, and now we circle her boat, is what it looks like. And we light that boat up with a very bright flashlight. So we've been communicating. My boat 1 and boat 2 have been communicating at distance with flashlights, and we close that distance. But the reality is I don't trust anybody. For all I know, Maria is not even on the boat, right? For all I know, Maria is on the boat, and there's a platoon of Cuban Navy SEALs that are holding her hostage, trying to get to us.
I think
Uh,
my blood pressure is rising just in hearing you describe it. And I know what happened. Like you did get her, and even that is stressing me out, just imagining that moment for you.
so we don't know, um, you know, if we are compromised,
Yeah.
this could be extremely hazardous to our health. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So you're not going to become a yoga teacher, is what you're telling me? Like this is not your next path in life? Got
no,
it.
not a lot of vegans at Grable Rescue, I'll tell you that much. Not a lot of granola. So we light up their boat, and what I'm looking for is, and we haven't released any of the video. We haven't released any of the video, but when you watch the video, you'll hear my boat guy. I put flashlights right in their eyes, right? And you hear my boat guy, don't put it in their eyes, just whatever. And he doesn't understand because he's not me. What I'm looking for is I want them to go like this. I'm trying to blind them. And when they go like this, I can see their hands and I can see if they're armed or not. I'm looking for
Mm.
guns. They should be unarmed. So if I see a weapon, if I see a knife, if I see a gun at distance, I can now know I've got a problem I need to deal with, right? So we light them up with flashlights and we make a big circle around the boat. I want to see everyone that's in the boat. I want to positively ID Maria visually. I want to make sure I know what she looked like getting on the boat. I want to make sure that somebody who looks just like that is on the boat, right? We see Maria and I yell out, Maria, Maria. And she yells back, it's me, Maria.
Mm.
So now, and I had hoped that my American accent would give her some assurances, right? So I didn't want to do a password or any of that stuff. That's how we usually do this stuff, a number or a word, or we have all kinds of fun tradecraft ways that we authenticate people. But because she is who she is, once I saw her face,
Mhm.
she's a very easy woman to positively identify because she's got a Wikipedia page, So this
That'll
is,
do it. Yeah.
she's a stranger, but her face is everywhere. So we get boat one and boat two, which are bebopping in the ocean like this. And this is kind of what it looks like. And we try and get them to line up next to each other. And we pull up next to boat one, and then they kind of lose it a little bit. And then boat one corrects, and they get right next to us. We do not tie up deliberately. We do not tie up. They tried to tie up to us. We didn't want them to do that because then we're stuck. Now we're married together, and if things go bad, that makes it harder. I reach into boat one. I'm on boat two. I reach down into boat one. They had as we got close, they threw us her bag. She had a suitcase with some stuff, like a small, like a large backpack in a garbage bag. We had waterproofed it so that her stuff didn't get soaking wet. So it's her bag inside of a garbage bag, inside of another garbage bag. We They throw that bag to us, put that aside. Our boats pull up next to each other. I reach down, I pull Maria up, put her into boat two.
Hmm. I'm wondering how much does Maria Corina Machado weigh all of a sudden as you described this to me? Wasn't a
With it,
question I was expecting to ask, but like here we are, dead
she's
of
tiny.
night between.
She's tiny. She's
Okay.
pretty. She's a petite woman. But more importantly, I'm a strong guy, and more importantly, there's a lot of adrenaline going on. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
this is like one of those moments where mommies lift their cars off of babies. It's like one of those moments. Um, and
Uh-huh.
now at that moment, we have the most wanted, hunted person in the Western Hemisphere on our boat.
In what when she's now solid on your boat, like what is her emotional state?
She's happy. God bless you, and super happy and whatever. And we had to do a couple of things with boat one. We had to do a couple of things with boat one. So at first it was kind of just like stay right here. We have to do a little bit of what we need to do. They need to go. We need to go our separate ways in a very particular way. They need to go. They need to take a. We need to take a very specific route, and they need to take a very specific route. And there were navigation problems, so we had to deal with those navigation problems a little bit. Um, um, Dealt with those problems. They're underway. We do an about face, and the way to the rendezvous point, we were driving into the wind, which made that
Mhm.
ride incredibly violent. It was horrible. It was brutal. It sucked. It sucked in every way. I've done a lot of things on the water. This was up there with the least favorite ones.
Hmm.
Um,
And can you give me a sense without sharing too much that would let us geolocate you along the coast? How long would it take to get to Curacao, more or less, when you're going against the wind in the middle of the night in these choppy waters?
so now on the way back, we're going with the wind. So now we're
Okay.
being
Yeah.
pushed. So the
Okay.
way back
Mhm.
to the BLS was significantly better. The way
Hmm.
the infill
Hmm.
was a much harsher ride than the exfil.
Okay.
Uh, um,
Hmm.
it's one of
Yeah.
those 50-50 things. And that's kind of
Yeah.
how we want it to be because now we're on the run. If nobody was watching before, they're definitely watching now
Yeah.
because two boats married up off the coast of Venezuela. If you're watching from the sky, you're seeing bundles of things moving, people moving.
Right.
Neither one of the boats have a roof on it, so it's very you can see everything.
Yeah.
Um, you may not know who this package is, but you could see the transfer of goods, if you will, and
Right.
people, and that could
And Right. I mean, as we talked about in our Monday conversation, there is the fear that this could be mistaken as being one of the alleged drug boats that this
Sure.
administration has continued to bomb. And then, of course, the Venezuelans could also be watching if you're drawing attention, taking too long. So, I mean, as this moment is happening, I mean, did was there any sense that something could escalate right there, or are we just moving as fast as we can in the water? How fast are you
We're going.
going to try to?
Yeah, we're going pretty fast. We're going we average 26 knots, which is real fast in those kinds of waters in the boat that we're in. We had a really good tailwind which helped us out well, and we were able to go between,
Yeah,
we'll go real fast. The catch is that when doing these kinds of things at speed in a boat, you want to manage your throttle so that you're not pounding into the waves each and you slow, and there's all kinds of things that you do on a boat to make it a little more
yeah,
um,
yeah,
less violent. Well, we're doing
mhm,
this in pitch black, so we can't see the waves. So we're just, it's a lot of this is what it looks like. It looks like this,
yeah.
and it's real
Oof.
loud, and it's real windy, and it's real wet. So all of us are soaking
Mhm.
wet, soaked to the gills. Um, I've got blisters on me from the rain and stuff coming off on my body still. It's a week ago. So
Wow.
my
Yeah.
body's still sore, and I'm a pretty young guy. So
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, so we shoot a course. We shoot a course to come kind of more north. My goal is to get out of complicated waters or contested waters and get into sovereign waters as soon as I can. In contested waters is dangerous. International waters are also dangerous, but sovereign waters are a little bit better. So I want to get to sovereign waters and then scoot that way. So I stay in sovereign waters as much as I can. I knew that if the Venezuelans were chasing us, that they wouldn't violate the sovereignty of one of the islands.
Hmm.
The international waters is not exactly fair game, but no one's looking there anyway. So they could shoot us up, sink our boat, and say we were anything really. They could say
Right.
they were. Maduro could have sunk our boat and literally gotten on TV and say, in accordance with President Trump, I too am against narcotics, and therefore I sunk these two narcotics boats. And
Yeah. Right.
nobody would know the difference. Nobody
Yeah.
would.
Is
So
is Curacao a country that would have had issue with Venezuela sinking your boat in the midst of this? I mean, would they have stood up for you guys if things did go bad?
I don't think so. Curacao is Dutch controlled. It's a colony. It's a commonwealth of the kingdom of Holland. Um, would Dutch special forces deploy to? No, like no, they're
Uh,
not. No,
yeah, we don't see that happening here.
no, they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Um,
Okay,
yeah. So
right.
that's why this is so complicated, is because when Grable Rescue does these operations, again, comparing to what we know to be true in government special operations, where
Hmm.
there's jocks and command centers and a whole you know kill rooms with TV screens, and the lawyers are there and all the people and the analysts and the this one and the that one, and a
Yeah,
whole room full of people. There may be 12 dudes or 20 dudes on an objective, but there's like 300 people helping them out
right,
at any
right.
moment with all the infrastructure and things that go with all that stuff.
Not so
Uh,
much for you.
we don't have any of
You
that.
don't
We
have
don't have any of
not
that.
you gotta rescue a few more Nobel Peace Prize laureates to make that happen, Brian.
Right. So
So
it's one of the reasons why
yeah.
why our ops work so well, is because we keep it real, 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 real small. Our model is the Jedburghs from World War II. That's where I
Mhm.
get all my tactics from.
Mm.
I read every one of the OSS manuals, all the AARs, everything I could find about how the Jeds operated, two-man teams, three-man teams, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if sometimes continents behind enemy lines, with
Mhm.
absolutely no
Mm.
QRF, no
Mm.
mommies, no daddies,
Yeah.
no F-16s and Apaches and all the things without drones, without any of that stuff. And somehow they beat the crap out of the Nazis and we won that war.
Mm.
Conversely, I look at the wars of my generation, we didn't do too well. We had a lot of that stuff. So how
Yeah.
that
But I
you know,
think part of that is a question of political will. It wasn't just about capability, it was also about
I don't know.
what,
We were the sixth attempt to get Maria out, is what we're told. We were number six. So I don't know how true that is. That's what we've heard.
who told you that?
We've got that from multiple sources that there were multiple attempts and other attempts. We know that one
Okay.
attempt, we've heard one attempt ended pretty poorly for those that tried to do it. A couple of years ago, there were a group of guys that tried to infill Venezuela. Um,
Wow.
this group,
Hmm.
Silver something from Fort Lauderdale, a bunch of Green Berets. They,
Wow.
they didn't even make it to shore. Most of them got killed, and a few got arrested and sent to prison in Venezuela. And
Wow.
they didn't even get to shore. And
So,
that was before the escalation. That was before all this stuff. That was a couple of years ago already. That's 5, 6 years ago. So, people, again, the sophistication of Venezuela
yeah.
is that's what makes this
So,
operation so marquee, is that it is uh, we did this operation at the worst time of the worst person from the worst country, uh, uh, um, and did it with gusto, relatively unilaterally.
I also want to talk about what Machado said to CBS this weekend. Quote, look, I absolutely support President Trump's strategy, and we, the Venezuelan people, are very grateful to him and to his administration. We have seen the Trump administration prioritize the Western Hemisphere. Trump authorizes covert action in Venezuela. He seized the tanker. Did she discuss the future of Venezuela with you? Because we
No.
know she wants to go back.
Yeah. We talked about her going back. We did not talk about the economic policy or the destruction of the cartels or the inflation, or we didn't talk politics at all. The things that we talked about were her kids. She was really excited. She hasn't seen her children in 2 years.
Mhm.
We talked a lot about that. There wasn't a lot of talking on the boat because it was so damn loud. And we're trying, like,
Yeah.
on our exfil route, you see me on comms a lot, and dear everyone, number one, we called jackpot. We called jackpot and transmitted that to the our interagency friends and some key leaders in the military, and to my team, and to her team.
Mhm. Okay.
We do an audio, we transmit, and what you hear is jackpot, 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 objective golden dynamite en route BLS 2, which is, we always say jackpot whenever we get somebody. Jackpot is the uh, brevity words that we use, the code word. Code word's kind of hokey, but it's what we always say um,
Mhm.
when rescuing somebody.
Okay.
Um, and then we always say the objective name so that everyone knows that we got her,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And then usually we put in where we're going. So because people know now we're on the move. Now we're on the hustle. We're
Mhm. Yeah. So
this is
so
when
what's
things get
the
very real.
what's the
And then
BLS? What's that?
beach landing site or
Okay.
beach landing site or boat landing site, where we pull in and where we embark
Okay.
from, and where we arrive to.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
In this case,
Yeah.
there were two BLSs: the BLS 1, which is where she left from, and
Hmm.
BLS 2, which is where she arrived to, and that's what we were
Okay.
up to.
Yeah. Okay. So, you formed this amazing relationship with her. She must be feeling pretty indebted to you for doing this work. Would you ever consider bringing her back into Venezuela or taking her out again if she does go back in and the Maduro regime is still in power?
Yeah. So Maria, I'm a huge fan of Maria. I've been following her for a very, very, very long time. Uh, um, I love her to death. She's great, and I love what she is. I love how she is. I love how she rolls. And I told her, she had said, I need to go back. I need to go back. And
Hmm.
um, and I said, I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't. You just pissed off Maduro and Diosdado Cabello, and they're pretty embarrassed, I'm sure. And we love you, and the world needs you. And um, she's like, por la gente,
Yeah.
like for the people, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
we had this very deep, long conversation about how she doesn't want to be. She didn't say it like this, but essentially, she didn't want to be an armchair quarterback. She didn't want to
Yeah.
be ruling from exile while
Yeah.
her people suffered.
And
And
and that's something that we've seen in other opposition leaders. I mean, Alexei Navalny survives a poisoning, ends up in Germany where he strengthens himself and he knows that he's going to go back and be in prison, but he went back anyway. And of
sure,
course, it's a very sad situation with Navalny. But so would you help Machado again?
yeah, of course. But for the same reason, I get this all the time. My board always yells at me. My board is made up of sacred cows of this game. Vice Admiral
I'm sh-
Pybus,
yeah.
General Linder, and all these guys. And uh, lots of people are like, as a human guy and as a CI guy, the rule is when in doubt, recruit an asset, right? Get other people to
Mm,
do the dirty work,
mm,
right? And for the same reason that I was on boat two is the same reason why she wants to go back is because I don't want to put my team at risk and me watch from a command center. That's not who I am. I've never been that guy. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
I'd be crawling out of my skin. I'd have a stroke. Like trying to, it's not FOMO. It's leadership, and
Yeah.
she wants to lead her people, and she is the leader of her people, and she's the president, and she won the election fair and square, and Maduro doesn't like it, and she is resolute in
Hmm.
her convictions as far as being on the ground with her people. She wants to be with her people, and I get that because we're having this conversation on boat two, and I'm like, you know, and I'm the chairman, and I'm the CEO, and I'm the founder, so I completely understand. I mean, this is what it looks like, just like holding onto this bar, and we're having this
Hmm.
conversation like screaming at each other because it's loud. It's very loud. The wind's
Yeah.
kicking and all that stuff. So it's like I understand. So I um um I wish she wouldn't go back. At the same time, I completely understand why she does and that she should. And I
Yeah.
don't like it, but I get it. And you
Yeah.
know, but if they
Yeah.
catch her, they're gonna torture her and rape her and kill her and who knows what. So
Yeah. And what about you? I mean, you've gotten so much media attention for this story, Bryan. And I know that you and I have talked before. We talked about an amazing rescue operation into Russian occupied Ukraine. That was a jaw-dropping story. You continue to do this work. Is all of this media attention making it harder to actually do
yeah.
the work?
Yeah, we do all this media stuff because at the end of the day, we're a nonprofit. We
Mhm.
need to fundraise. So the only way to do that is through awareness. Our entire operating budget is like a rounding error for paper clips for like one fiscal quarter at the Pentagon. So if we had, for those listening, if you have a big foundation and you have a big endowment, I promise I hate being on media. I hate doing TV. I hate these podcast things.
I'm sorry, Bryan. I'm
you know,
sorry.
God bless the people that do them and whatever. But I spent my entire life without an online presence, and now I
And
have.
here you are. Yeah.
Man,
Okay. Well, but
it makes it
okay.
harder.
So,
But we
yeah.
do we do these things out of necessity. Um, and it's one of these weird chicken or the egg things, right? Maria's team wouldn't have known to find us if it wasn't for our publicity and all the other 799 other missions that we've done. This is our 800th one in 4 years, my team and I, since August 2021. Um,
I guess that she was listening to Spycast and when we did our first episode together, and that's the thing that made them decide,
of
let's go to
course,
Bryan and Grable.
of
Um,
course.
but yeah, I mean, you know, one thing you said to me in our podcast interview from earlier this year is wherever the government isn't, that's where we are. And I know that you have a good relationship with this administration. Could there be Pentagon contracts in the years ahead? Do you see that happening?
I think there should be. That I think it's a fundamental mistake in policy that we don't have a more formal relationship with the government, either DoD or SOCOM or JSOC or the intelligence community or whatever. JPRA, whoever. I think that that's a mistake. And I say that because not for our own benefit, although it would be. I say that because all the bad guys have figured out how to get, all the threat countries have figured out how to blend the private sector with their national security policy. We struggle with this. That blend we call the defense industrial base, that's largely a manufacturing thing or a butts and seats for analyst thing. Not really doing coordinated operations with American businesses and the national security community.
Right.
Sure,
Right. Is that, but is that privatizable? I mean,
why not?
do, but you also described how there were these other missions to get Machado out that failed.
I
And
bet you that
then,
I don't know about them, but I bet you that those were government run, not private run.
hmm,
I bet.
interesting.
I
Okay.
we've done a
So, but
number of
has,
we've done a
oh,
number of many operations where um I actually just lectured about this in I forget I was somewhere I was at Fort Bragg or someplace and we were talking about agency a little bit and covert action a little bit and insofar as the first option when there's a problem the first option is always diplomacy, right? We try and use the diplomatic corps to leverage their stuff and our power and WASTA and all that to solve a problem, right? When
right.
that doesn't work, the second option is the military, right? We project military force and we use that as swaggering or as a deterrent
Right.
or whatever.
And third option is covert action. We
Third
know
option is
that.
covert action, which is the Third Option Foundation, which is the SAD
Special Activities Department or Center from the
yeah,
CIA.
center.
Yes.
Yeah, now it's center.
Mhm.
I'm old school. I still call it SAD, SAC now. Uh,
Mhm.
it's SAC's. That's their foundation for their operators, right? A
Right.
tremendous organization, great organization, right? We're like the fourth option. Grable is like the fourth option because we did a great operation earlier this year with Lindsey Graham. We called it Graham Cracker. We named it after him in Syria. And three Americans are stuck in Syria. We have 4,000 troops in Syria, right? Soft, dark soft, vanilla soft, all kinds of hundreds of aircraft, all this other good stuff. And for 2.5 weeks, no one could figure out how to get these three American citizens trapped in Syria 21 minutes away from where the largest US bases in Syria is
Mm.
located. And for 2.5 weeks, while the Bedouins were killing people in the streets, an American citizen was summarily executed and his family uh, about 7 minutes away from where this family was located. And the bad guys put that on Instagram, shot him full of holes, turned him into Swiss cheese, a gentleman from Oklahoma. So these three Americans are stuck. They're asking everyone for help. The Lindsey Graham himself is involved, and no one could figure out how to do it.
Mhm.
We were a day and a half.
Okay. I mean, that's tremendous. And when I asked you about government contracts, you said that they should, but are there rumblings for this? Is it actually something that you're in
I don't think so.
discussion over?
No, we're not in discussions, although we would love to be. We would welcome it. Um, uh, um, and it gets awkward because if asked, what capability does Grable Rescue have that the government doesn't have? The answer is none. What?
But
There's no.
it's the lack of bureaucracy, the speed,
It's
the flexibility, right?
it's because I'm not an O5 trying to make O6. I'm not a GS13 trying to become a GS14. I'm not a political appointee who is trying to make my way in the administration. I'm not an ambassador who's got 100 other things going on. I'm not a chief of station who has competing priorities and relationships that have to get maintained from an FI perspective on the Title 50 side. We don't have any of those problems. We don't have legal oversight. My lawyers at Grable Rescue do not get a vote as to
Mhm.
what operations we do or don't do or how we do it. They're there if we get in trouble to defend us if we get jammed up.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you sitting down with me for a second time this week to talk about what is going on in Venezuela and your own role in trying to improve the situation. So,
Happy.
everybody, I will just say that Grable Rescue is available for you to look at online. You can learn more about the work that Bryan has been doing. Don't forget to subscribe to Humint and share this conversation with people. And Bryan, wishing you well from one hotel room to another. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.